Hello, good afternoon. I just wanted to welcome everybody to today's Leading the Way webinar. And today's topic is the primary source verification, and we'll be covering the definition of primary source verification, definition of contemporaneous notice, and best practices. And today's presenters are myself. I'm Brittany. I'm a lead investigator. And my favorite thing to do when the weather is nice is mow my lawn. You can catch me out riding my mower all day. I love it. We also have Rachel. Rachel is an investigator and is part of the sales and marketing team. And when the weather is super nice, Rachel enjoys taking her two dogs for a very long walk.
This is true.
And we have Patricia. Patricia is also a lead investigator here, and she enjoys bringing her son Oliver to the park. And then we have Yvette. Yvette is also a lead investigator, and she enjoys sitting on the beach when there is not a pandemic. And then we have Michelle. Michelle is the president and owner of Commercial Investigations, and you can find Michelle, rain or shine, out on that golf course. And now I'm going to pass it over to Yvette.
Welcome, everybody. So today, like Brittany said, we are going to talk about primary source verification. So what exactly is primary source verification? So it's pretty much exactly as it sounds. It means we're getting the information directly from the source. So for example, if we here at Commercial Investigations are asked to verify someone's high school diploma, we're going to simply reach out to the school that they attended, and we're going to get that verification directly from the school. Same thing being with an employment, past or present, we're going to reach out to the employer. In regards to criminal records, we will reach right out to the appropriate court in order to get the accurate information on any criminal records. Just so that you're aware, all background investigation companies do not use primary source verification. Some use what is called contemporaneous notice. And I'm going to now turn it over to Patricia to define contemporaneous notice to y'all.
So what is contemporaneous notice? Basically what it is under the FCRA section 613, there are two modus operandi that consumer reporting agencies can use. One is this contemporaneous notice, and the other is strict procedures. As Commercial Investigations, we use strict procedures, and that's why we do the primary source verification to ensure that the information is up to date. That's why we're getting it directly from the source. So that when we send it on to our clients, we have the most up-to-date information. The difference between that and contemporaneous notice is that information, if it's adverse, once it comes back, is then sent directly to the client. Meanwhile, it is sent to the subject at the same time if the adverse information is on the background investigation report. What the difference is between this and adverse action is most of the time when companies are using this contemporaneous notice, it means that they're not going back and verifying the information that they get back from their sources. So say it's a multi-jurisdictional search and it comes back with, it's for John Smith, and John Smith has 20 different cases all over the United States for John Smith that have a DOB that matched. So at that point, those organizations that are using that contemporaneous notice don't go and verify the information on that multi-jurisdictional, going directly to the sources to obtain those additional identifiers to make sure that it is a positive identification or being able to rule it out. At that point, they are sending it to, once the report is completed, they're sending it to the client, and then they're also sending it directly to the subject with the 613 letter stating, hey, there's adverse information on your background investigation. This also went to the client. The definition of it has to be at the same time. That's why it's called contemporaneous. However, you know, originally when this was passed, it was in the 70s, so mail was really the only option for that. So it didn't matter as much when they were sending them out because they would send them out via mail to both the client and then to the subject. But with technology evolving and things being sent to the client immediately through technology and the internet, it's getting a little bit more difficult to maintain that sending out simultaneously. There are some things that I want to point out about contemporaneous notice that are just kind of why you shouldn't. They're kind of the no-nos. It's kind of the cheap way. That's one of the reasons that a lot of companies will do it. They won't take the time to actually go through and make sure that they're verifying the information. It's not the most responsible way to do it because, again, you could be sending information out on a subject that is not belonging to them, which leads me to the next point, that it is devastating to the individual. If they are, applying for a job, their job gets a notification, they have these criminal history hits, and it doesn't belong to them. So it's kind of a devastating thing because then they miss out on a job for criminal records that aren't theirs. They're not always accurate and they're not always up to date because a lot of the times these sources are just data scraped and not always scraped every single day. So the information may not be updated. And this increases the risk of litigation for the clients and the end users, as well as it's a public relation nightmare for clients and end users if they are passing on or not hiring people or not promoting people based on information that doesn't necessarily belong to them. So that's kind of the background of contemporaneous notice in the 613 letters.
So now I am going to tell you all some of the reasons that we here at Commercial Investigations use primary source verification. So one of Commercial Investigations' core values is do the right thing always. And so we believe that primary source verification is the right thing to do. Primary source verification is the most respectful for the subject of the background investigation, and it allows us to make positive identification of the subject using multiple identifiers. So along with a first name, last name match, also when it's available, we will verify date of birth, a social security number, possibly a middle initial, middle name, and address history. So we're going to use as many identifiers as are available to us to verify the identification of the subject. And so again, we know that going directly to the source is going to give us the most accurate and up-to-date information. So Patricia, was there anything else you wanted to add before we put it out to questions to everybody?
I'm sorry, I was choking on air. So just kind of a recap on it. 613 applies to employment, and that 613 notice has to be given as close as possible. So contemporaneous notice isn't necessarily the best option, and that is why, as Yvette said, Commercial Investigations uses that primary source verification. It's also something that we pride ourselves on saying, necessarily. Just as an example, we get a case back that's pending and has a future court date, but the rest of the background investigation isn't complete. So once that background investigation, the rest of the inquiries in it might be completed, we might have passed that court date. So we actually will reach back out to the court and ensure that we have the most up-to-date information. So we don't just verify, we'll go back and re-verify just to make sure that our background investigations are following those strict procedures.
Thanks, Patricia. So do any of our guests have any questions for us today?
Yes, long-time listener, first-time caller. So you talked about using primary source verification in the context of criminal investigations, but would you say that it's important or necessary to do that for things and I know Yvette touched on educations, if I am doing the background check on someone and they send me a copy of their diploma, shouldn't that suffice as a verification?
Absolutely not. And this was actually something that I wanted to talk about. So thank you for bringing it up. In that case with, W-2s or people providing copies of their diplomas, there's one thing that is considered diploma mills, which are people who pay money for basically worthless degrees. They'll pay the money. They can take a online test as many times as they need to, and then get this document that they are considered a high school diploma. There's also forgeries, and you would be surprised at the amount of forgeries that I have seen in my years here at Commercial Investigations, almost 5 years. I've seen quite a few actual forgeries where they'll change the information of an actual document to match their own. So, relying on someone handing you a document is not the same as going directly to the source. And it's really, really important that you do go directly to the source, or have us go directly to the source for you. With that being said, the same can go for, W-2s. We get subjects will frequently offer us W-2s, and we will not accept them as verification because, again, these documents can be altered. It's really easy to alter them. So it is a really good idea to make sure that primary source verification is what you're doing for other verifications, not just the criminal side.
Thanks, Patricia. Anybody else with any questions for us this afternoon? All right, then I think Rachel is going to wrap it up for us today.
Yes. So if you have any other questions after the webinar or at any point, certainly give us a call at our 800 number or our 518 number. And we're also available all day through our staff email account, which Brittany monitors. So definitely send us a question. We'll get it taken care of as soon as possible. Thanks again for joining us. We will be holding another webinar in September. It'll be on the decision matrix. So definitely stay tuned for that. We'll be sending out more information once it gets closer to the time that we'll be doing that. And of course, check out our website for previous recorded webinars and more information and more educational tools. So thanks again.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, kids.
Thanks for joining us.